Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Haystack Nation. How's it going today, Dwayne?
Going good. A little cool outside.
Cold, rainy.
Not too much sun, but
kind of gloomy.
We're alive.
But it is Sabbath, too, and we're alive. Those are two positive things. We're alive, and it's Sabbath. Sure. That's enough to make our day exciting. And a third thing also, Dwayne, it's an exciting show because we are doing another first for Haystack Nation, right? So to speak, in a way, right? We've got a special guest with us this afternoon.
Correct. This year we were going to, we wanted to focus on stories, We wanted to hear stories from friends, family, and even people who aren't friends, from not just in the U.S., but, or here in Texas, I should say, but around the U.S. and even around the world,
Absolutely.
Or whoever may be listening.
Yeah, so we want to engage our listeners and our audience and really hear from them. And one of the ways that we decided to do that is to reach out to some of them and invite them to come on and talk with us and share their stories. And pretty much after we kind of put the message out there for people to reach out to us, our guest today was pretty prompt to respond.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it was.
We have Brian Valendez here with us this afternoon. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Hey, doing all right here.
Now, Brian, before we get started, you still have a chance to get out of this if you want to. You can still run,
And leave us without any content.
Yeah, but that's okay. We'll probably make stuff up. Brian, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing all right. Like I said earlier, it was a little cold today. Yesterday it was pretty sunny, and then all of a sudden it just got cold and raining here, which has been it's a surprise because we've been needing rain here in California lately.
I was gonna say, so you're in California. What part of California are you in?
I'm in Loma Linda.
Oh, okay. That's a little further north, right? Like, is that southern, middle, northern California? Where exactly is Loma? 'Cause I'm not familiar with. I know about Loma Linda, but not familiar with the location. Where are you at?
We're here in Southern California, maybe about a good 45 minutes to 1 hour from LA.
South of LA? North of LA?
No,
east of LA.
East of LA.
East of LA. Okay, all right. I have family in LA. I've visited LA, but I've just never been to the Loma Linda area. So, I know it's.
You've never been to Loma Linda?
No, never been to Loma Linda.
Wow.
The closest I've gotten to Loma Linda are the Linkets.
The ones from the ABC right down the street here in Keene.
That's about it. That's as close to Loma Linda as I've gotten.
That's true.
So great. So how long have you been in California, Brian?
Well, we've been here since about March 2015. So this March will mark about 6 years already.
6 years. Now, where are you originally? Where have you been? Where are you from?
I was born here in the LA area. And then I was here most of my life. And then I did about 4 years of high school in the Philippines, then came back to the U.S., and then around 2000, moved to Texas. Was there for about 10 years. And then after graduating in Texas, I came back here. Did some missionary work in South Korea and Thailand. And then over the course of that time, got married, and then we decided to come back here to my roots.
So you've done some missionary work overseas.
Oh, yes. Like I said, in Korea and Thailand. And those are very, that made me appreciate a lot more about life, going to a place you've never been to and know nothing about the culture.
Now, you were earlier, before we started the show, you were talking to us about some of the cultural traditions, some of the cultural aspects of where you've been. What's been a cultural thing that has really been surprising, or just something you learned that was that just impressed you about some of the trips you've been on, some of the cultural things that you've experienced? I'm just curious.
In Korea, maybe I'll just say a few of each of the places. In Korea, they're not really fond of when you're having a conversation. They're not really fond of looking at you eye to eye all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They always like look down or look around because according to my pastor over there, they don't really like staring at the person for a very long time. And then in Thailand, this is just another thing. In Thailand, like when you're sitting down on the bus or any mode of transportation, they don't like it when you point with your feet. So it's very interesting. And to them, it's like disrespectful in a way in Thailand. Yeah. I was like, whoa. And it took me a very long time to get used to that because, hey, over here in America, we're just like chill. We just put our feet up and point. But over there, it's very frowned upon.
Hey, I was going to say, man, I'd be in trouble if I went to one of those places.
Yeah, but in the Philippines, where you lived for 4 years, as you learned at the when we went to the Christmas program, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do Filipinos like to do?
They like to get together
Stuff
and
your
like
face.
To eat. Yeah, they like to eat for sure.
Yeah,
they're hearty eaters. Yeah. And I actually told someone the other day. I said some of the best potlucks you'll ever go to is probably a Filipino church because they just bring like.
Oh man, yeah.
They love to bring the food. So just FYI.
Yeah, definitely. I think one time at the Filipino church there in Arlington, I think we had like 3 or 4 different colors of rice, and I'm like, well, I'm not surprised about that with the rice, that's for sure.
I didn't know there was
and
3 colors. I know
rice cooker that we take out at the church.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's about this big, this tall.
Yeah, wow, that's like a giant crock pot.
Pre-COVID times when we were cooking rice for the potlucks, that was it. Someone was responsible for this huge rice cooker.
Now, Brian, do you cook?
I do cook, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one thing that I've been learning a lot lately.
To cook? Is that by necessity, or is that because you just decided to take up the hobby of cooking? Well,
kind of both. My wife used to work nights as a nurse. Mm-hmm. Now she just switched to days. But I figured that, hey, I got to help around the house a little bit. So I just started watching YouTube and seeing what I can learn how to cook. And it took her some time to get used to my cooking. And I won't say that she likes all of it, but she likes some of it.
That's good.
Well, if you're ever in need of a good recipe, Haystack Nation is making cooking videos now, so check them out.
Oh, okay.
That was a good plug-in, Dwayne. That's a great plug-in.
Yeah.
Make sure you on the video, make sure you put a little banner, at the bottom of the screen there to direct people to the cooking show.
Yeah, so right now you can learn how to make tofu tacos from the ladies at Haystack Nation and Jesse.
Well, I don't know. I didn't do much. I was just there and ate it at the end. Brian, so as far as being an Adventist, have you always been an Adventist, or were you introduced to Adventism?
I am a third generation Adventist.
Oh, wow.
And my father was converted by my mother. My father used to be Catholic, and then my mother is a second generation Adventist. And he started going to church with her, and then he was converted.
Okay, wow. So, being that you're speaking of cultural things, and being an Adventist, there's a lot of things within the Adventist culture. Haystacks being one of them. I'm sure you're familiar with.
Wait, have you ever put linkettes on haystacks?
Ooh, I have not.
That could be another topping, right?
That could be another topping. Do you have a favorite topping? I have to ask you because it is Haystack Nation, so I have to ask you if you have a favorite topping that you put on your haystack, or what's your. I
would say, and this is speaking as a Pathfinder who has been to many campouts with a lot of Haystack-only meals. I will say this: I've had some good chili, and then maybe some sour cream. Sometimes I like to put sour cream on it too, but a good chili or beans that makes it
okay
over the top. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like the chili idea. That's a good idea too. Now we got a couple of good ideas: chili and linkets.
Yeah, because the other day we were chatting about what makes a perfect haystack, and the reality is it's so versatile.
It is.
It's perfect if you think it's perfect, right? So
yeah.
you can make it however you want. So.
Exactly. That's what's cool about Haystacks, I guess. So Brian, you reached out to us. You wanted to share with us some of the things that you've experienced here recently. You gave us a really brief little couple of sentences about something you want to share. You mentioned just over the past year, of course, all of us with the pandemic going on and everything that we've all experienced have gone through ups and downs. But you said that over the past year, that's been something that has changed you, or at least that has really, God's been working in your life to bring about some change. So share with us your story. Tell us what the last year has been like and what you and your family have been through.
Well, like what everyone has been experiencing lately, this COVID thing has really, really changed how we live. And for my family and I, like I said earlier, we moved here from Thailand, 2015, March 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife was immediately, well, not immediately, like maybe almost like a few months after we got here, she was able to get a job as a nurse. And I graduated from the University of North Texas with a sociology degree. And coming back here, I was like, well, what can I do with that degree? And I had that if you want to say talk with the wife about, hey, you need to possibly get into a better field, something that could, that's stable and whatnot, no matter what happens, or I guess you could say even COVID proof or whatnot. And this was like back in 2017, and so I was like, maybe I should check out the medical field. And so I was looking at all of the medical fields, and I'm like, probably not going to be a nurse. I know my aunts and my friends' mothers, and a lot of the Filipino community are nurses, but it's just not for me. So I was watching a basketball game one time. It was like a Team USA basketball game, and one of their players got injured. I was like, I wonder what his recovery is like. And that immediately plugged me into physical therapy.
Mm.
And at that time, we just transferred from my parents' place. We were living there for like a few months, and then we came here to Loma Linda so that we could be closer to my wife's work, which is about 10 minutes from here. And I was like, hey, Loma Linda University is offering a physical therapy assistant program. And so I went there. I inquired about what do I need, like prerequisites to get into the program. And they're like, well, here's a list. I'm like, okay. So there are some things that I have that could take care of the requirements to advance to get into the program. But there were some other classes that I needed to take. And so after that, every year I started taking one at a time prerequisites. And just when I thought that I was ready to enter the program, I think it was 2019, it just happened that I was lacking a class. So for that simple reason, I was not able to get into the program in 2019. And so I'm like, okay, all I need to do is just take this one more class, and then I'll be able to get into the program in 2020. And so I was able to take that last class, and I was just preparing myself. I'm like, okay, going back to school after how many years is definitely different, but I'm ready, And after I finished that class, that last requirement online, that's when COVID came.
Man.
And I was like, okay. So this is definitely, I was thinking to myself, this will definitely change the learning experience for the program. And I'm like, are they going to have online classes, or is this problem that's going on right now? Is this just going to be something that will eventually take care of itself, and then it will go away? And then by June, that's when my classes for the physical therapy assistant program are going to start. Everything will just hope for the best. So as the months go on, and as my daughter takes extended leave from her spring break, she never comes back to class after March.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is getting this is getting pretty serious.
So life is beginning to change a lot now. You're starting to think, well, there's going to be a lot of what other changes might be on the horizon, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it was like, okay, so the first class that I was scheduled to take for the program was anatomy, gross anatomy, and I'm like, well, how are we going to do lab if we need to do social distancing?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? So there were just so many things going through my mind at that time.
Yeah, and then eventually, I mean, you would have probably had to do clinicals too, right? As part of it, which would require contact.
Your hands-on stuff. Yeah.
And so the months went by, and I was getting updates from the program director, and they're like, "Well, from the looks of it, we're probably going to have your lectures on Zoom, but your anatomy lab will be in person, but you're going to be in full PPE gear as if you're already a medical worker."
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I tried to do all the last minute things that they need me to do, like shots and other requirements, and everything was set for the program to start. And so we started in June, and it's just really weird not having in-person interaction with your own classmates, like for lectures.
Yes.
Because Zoom was just totally new to all of us, and even for the teachers, they too were adjusting as well.
Uh-huh.
And so I started the course, and I was kind of expecting it to be difficult because my friends were like, "Oh, it's so difficult. You really, really need to study. It's really hardcore." I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, it shouldn't be that bad, right? I think they were just trying to scare me, or they were messing with me.
You're just not as smart as I am.
Really... Yeah. So we started going through the class, and it was an 8-week gross anatomy, fast-paced class. And with this program, if you weren't able to pass gross anatomy, they call it a gatekeeper class. So if you did not pass that class, then you can't proceed in the program.
Mm-hmm. So that's a weed up class.
Basically, that's basically what it was. And so there were about 50 of us in the program. I didn't expect it to be that many, but there were about 50 of us. And so the program, the class was about two months long, and as the class went on, I found myself falling behind and balancing life as a father and as a husband here at home.
Yeah.
And the lab hours were crazy. They were from like 6 to 9. So I would come home really tired. Then I would have to take my wife to work because at that time she was still learning how to drive and whatnot. And then in the morning I would have to go pick her up. And then since it was summertime, I would have to watch my daughter and then just try and find pockets of time to study. Key word there. Try. There were days when I couldn't study at all.
That's
so
rough.
Yeah. And do you have the one daughter? Or do you have other children or?
Well, I only have one daughter.
That's still busy.
Man. We each have 2. Imagine trying to do this with 2.
Yeah, well,
and ours are all over the place. I mean, you heard last episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as the months went on, I found myself, like I said, falling behind, trying to catch up with things, and unfortunately, not passing the test, online tests, and even lab practicals.
You were not passing the test?
I wasn't passing the test, and I wasn't the only one. There were about 6 or 7 of us who were struggling as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to gather together. We tried to study, but for some reason, all of us it just wasn't clicking. And that's when I started to question my purpose of being in this course. And that's when I questioned God. I was like, Lord, I've been working so hard with these prerequisites to get where I am right now.
Yeah.
And then now it's just like it's not going through, And so I started questioning myself, and my wife was like, just continue to study hard, continue to pray, everything will be fine. But as the as the class went on, I just found myself in a bigger and bigger hole, and I I tried to keep the faith, but I admit there were moments where I had so much doubt, But I just told myself, I have to keep going. I have to keep trying. I have a few more tests. Maybe I can pull it out. Maybe I can pass a class, because with Loma Linda, a passing is a 75.
Mm.
A lot of schools, I think passing is like a 70.
Yeah.
But with their standards, it's like a 75. And when you're in distance learning, and social distancing is being required of you, and you can't always go out and meet with people because you never know if they might be infected, that it really makes the learning environment hard.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, two of my classmates ended up getting COVID, and one could not return because he kept on getting positive test after positive test.
Wow. So I mean, it's one thing to barely be passing. I mean, discouraged because you're barely passing, but this is another one to just be failing and then feeling like you're not going to get out of that.
Yeah, that's basically
that's hard.
Basically it. Yeah, it was. And then as the end of that first summer semester was going down, I was like, you know what? I've learned so much already about myself in these past 2 months that if I quit right now, I'm gonna look like, I just look like I just gonna give up. But I told myself that I'm just gonna keep on going, learn as much as I can, and if I want to come back and do the program again next year, then I'll at least have the know-how and the knowledge of, hey, maybe I can do better next time.
Now, you said you learned some things about yourself. What do you recall learning about yourself that maybe you didn't know before, or you were like, I've really, I realized something about myself? Anything stand out or come to mind?
I think of the Bible verse in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. I think I was trying to do too much from myself and not saying, God, I give everything to you. I mean, I did pray to him. I did ask for help, but I didn't give it all to him. I figured like, hey, I should be the one. It's always that me concept of, hey, I can do it. I don't really need God's help, And so when I look back at it, I was just like, I really didn't give it all to God. And at the end, there ended up being around 8 or 9 of us who didn't pass. And it was sad. It was sad because this was something that I was putting myself into for the past few years. This was it. I was gonna get into this course. I was gonna graduate. I was gonna get a good job. But as you both know, sometimes God likes to lead you on a different path and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm not sure if this is for you. This is maybe what you want.
Yeah. But
as far as what I want, I don't think so. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is my daughter, by the way, right. Elian.
Hi.
I'm 6.
You're 6.
All right. That's a good age.
Yeah, it's my boy's age right there.
Yeah. So after that, I had a really, really, my wife and I, we had quite a few talks about what are we going to do next? What is the next step?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so she was like, well, maybe, just think about it. Maybe you can think of what other areas you could possibly get into. Maybe at the same time, put in your resume, see if you could find a job and see what happens. So I'm like, okay, so I begin to search for jobs and look more into other opportunities that I could possibly get into as far as education. And my wife came home one day. This was like maybe a few months after everything happened with my schooling. And she's like, I talked to one of my coworkers. I'm like, well, okay. And she's like, her husband was kind of like in the same situation as you, and he looked into something called medical coding. And so I was like, maybe I should look into it. At that time, I didn't really pay much attention to it. It was just like, okay, I'll look into it. I was still concentrating on possibly finding another job and whatnot, and going from there. And then she followed up with me, and she was like, "So, what did you find?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, medical coding. You told me about that."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Yeah, what did you find?" I'm like, "Well, it looks interesting. You know, I'm into computers and whatnot, so it might be something that I might be interested in." She's like, "We need to find something for you because we're not getting any older. We're not getting any younger. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to get you something into that you can finish immediately, because with the physical therapy assistant program, it was only 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, associate degrees, they take about 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
but their program at Loma Linda is pretty fast paced.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Probably a lot to learn in a little bit of time.
definitely. Oh yeah, definitely, with how fast paced they go. So I started looking into medical coding, and my wife was like, "If you want, I can ask my coworker for the link for the school, and it's done completely online, so you don't have to worry about going to classes." I'm like, "Okay." And at this time, my daughter's school was like, "Yeah, we're not going to be having classes anytime soon because of COVID." And we were wondering before, when I was in the physical therapy assistant program, how are we going to make this work if I'm going to be in school at Loma Linda and my daughter would be going to school? How are we going to do that? And when I think about it, really, when I look back at it, it's like really a blessing in disguise that I am doing this schooling, this medical coding schooling online on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can still help my daughter with her school, because let's face it, online schooling for them is basically like homeschooling.
Yeah.
They have their teacher on the computer, but at the end we're helping them more than the teacher.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a taste of that when the pandemic first hit last year, and I felt like we were the ones doing the teaching. You know, it was like, hey, here's the worksheets for the kids,
right?
Just make sure they get through it. And I was
like this, your kids and my kids, you know, or my oldest, you know, they'll start doing homeschool, because it's like, what's the point of sending them to school? They're gonna send them right back at some point, or you know, there was the idea that might happen. But so yeah, great, Brian. So you had the opportunity to be at home, to care for your daughter, and be able to pursue some work there.
Yes, and as of this moment, I am still in the course, hoping to be done, God willing, by April or May. And so, things are looking up. I always tend to look ahead at times, but when I think about it, when one door closed, God gave another door open.
Yeah.
Correct.
When I came back to Him, per se, after my experience at Loma Linda, and just said, "Okay, Lord, please guide me. I give it everything to you now."
Did you find, Brian, that past experiences helped you get through that struggle or that period of time when it was difficult? You know, just other things that you've learned in the past from your spiritual life, or has this been like where you learned the most about your spiritual life and your relationship with God?
Well, not only with what happened at Loma Linda, but also with, and as I'm sure you guys know, about the closing down of church services here, and we haven't had church for for almost a year now, and so that, with not going to church and just having all the services online and whatnot, it really made me think. I was like, wow, maybe God is testing us with how we will do our relationship with Him when we don't have that when we don't have that church to fellowship and to mingle with our fellow brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think it was during Thanksgiving. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's during Thanksgiving that we got together with a few friends, and we went around the table and we were like, what are you thankful for? That's because that's what you asked during Thanksgiving. And so one of our friends said something that really, really struck to me. And he's like, I don't know about you, but this experience with COVID and not having a church is actually a blessing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are like, why is it a blessing? And he's like, it really made me think about my relationship with God. It really is showing just how strong my relationship with God is without church. Because we go to church, we hear sermons, we listen to the songs, we hear lectures sometimes and whatnot about different topics, but with no church, you're basically on your own. You're doing your own thing. You're not really necessarily watching the live feed sometimes. Maybe you'll watch the recording of it later on when you're not busy.
Yeah.
And so when he said that, I was just like, wow. And that really made me think about where is my relationship with God during these difficult times? Am I taking advantage of how I can be more spiritually fit? Or has this pandemic really made me more relaxed because we're not going to church?
Yeah.
Well, at least in our area anyway. I know other states have church services, but over here in California, church has been suspended.
And you bring up a good point, Brian. It's like sometimes in this world where things are just moving so fast, we're so busy, we're out and about just trying to make a living, that we tend to get dependent on church service, right? For our spiritual uplifting for the week.
Yeah.
That sometimes throughout the whole week before church, when we should be taking time every day to, meet with God and spend time with Him, we just say, "Oh, well, I'll get that.
Yeah.
I'll just get that on Sabbath at church,"
Right.
And
right.
I guess that is an opportunity from the pandemic I never thought about either. So,
well, I think
it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, kind of like the theme or the most important lesson that I've heard a lot of people mention is like what Brian's talking about, dependence on God, because you realize I can't no longer or as easily depend on other people. I can't rely on other people.
Yeah.
I don't have the access maybe to other people like I used to have, and now it's like I'm on my own, or it's just me and my immediate family, but I don't have that outlet, and it really begins to make you think about, wow, it's really me and God, and I have to depend on God for guidance, and I have to depend on Him to open those doors or close those doors, and it tests your relationship with Him a lot more than, like you said, we kind of go through the motion of church, we go through the motion of expecting church, at every Sabbath, and now things are different, So just listen to Brian's, listen to Brian's story. Just makes me think about, all the changes that he went through and, and all the challenges, and then just feeling that helplessness at times,
Correct.
That it's, I can't do anything else. I really have to give it to God. I don't, because I can't take it upon myself to manage all of these things or have all the answers or know what's going to happen, so, fantastic, Brian, that you've allowed yourself you've allowed yourself to grow spiritually and not go the other directions where many people could get very discouraged and could really just abandon the faith, Yeah,
it was definitely something that I've experienced a lot in my life as well. But I think not just myself, but everyone is going through something, especially during this pandemic. And what we're learning about a lot of people is they're really showing their true colors when when things get tough and whatnot. I have to say, now is a great opportunity to reach out to people to, as God's messengers, to tell them about Him. And I was talking with Dwayne and the other day, and he was saying that's our mission here on earth, is to tell the message of God to other people. We're not here to be conspiracy theorists. We're not here to say certain things about the pandemic and whatnot. We're here to tell them what's in the Bible and how God is, And it pains me to say this, but I'll say it anyway, that that some of our own brothers and sisters tend to go down the route that God does not intend us to be. Meaning, He doesn't want us to sound conspiracy theorists like. He wants us to be like Him. Mm-hmm. And if we're sounding in that certain way, then it can really lead other people and even people in Christ down a different road. And as we know, you will be accounted for in the judgment about what you said, Mm-hmm. And so I think our words, we really need to be careful on how we describe things today and whatnot. And there are certain topics out there, probably won't get into right now, but there are certain topics out there that really people tend to focus more of instead of the message of God.
Yep. Yeah. So Dwayne gave you some of this advice. Dwayne actually had this kind of conversation with you. This guy's been giving advice to different people, and it's like everyone's like, "Oh man, such great advice!" And Dwayne said this, and Dwayne said that, and it's like, really, this guy?
I wouldn't say it was advice. We were just having a chat, right? So we were kind of discussing some of these things. And this.
I'm just messing with you, man. Yeah, you do have good conversations, man.
Every once in a while, we were just talking about the current events, right? We see a lot of division, a lot of. Some people would even go as far as to call it chaos, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, do we need to be partaking in one side or the other? Mm-hmm. We get to choose what comes out of our mouth. We get to choose how we act in front of people. All that's a choice, right? Yeah. And what I was telling Brian was that how much better would things be if everyone chose to focus on saying positive things that glorify and uplift Jesus, right? Because at the end of the day, it's that love that caused Him to die on the cross. That same sacrificial love. If we were to possess even just an ounce of that, Yeah.
Wow.
How much better would the world be?
A lot better.
Maybe our tweets would be better. They wouldn't be tweets that divide people. Maybe our Facebook posts would be posts that unite people under this person who is Jesus that died for us, or
a godly spirit rather than the spirit of division and hate and intolerance and all the other stuff. But Brian's right. Even among our religious communities, right, our brothers and sisters, there are issues and things that come up that draw us away from that objective, from Christ, from Jesus, from looking to Him. And it's so easy to get entangled and caught up in all of these things and then start arguing these other things and these other positions and defending other things rather than defending the gospel and maybe presenting reasonable, good arguments for the gospel and the need for the gospel in today's crazy world, And so we lose so many opportunities when we become consumed with the other things that are out there that are just ensnaring people.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
I was just thinking in your situation, man, if you, with everything you were going through, trying to get through the physical therapy assistant program and then, that not panning out, imagine if you were that much more focused on, say, for example, partaking in those conversations that we don't need to be partaking in or tweeting out. You know what I'm saying? You chose to focus on letting God guide you, and where one door closed, you saw the blessing in the open door just to the right, And
it's and like you said, I have been a part of some conversations where the topics are just like not really, I wouldn't say relevant, but it's just like well, are we talking about God's message, or are we talking about something that is not related to our salvation?
Mm-hmm.
And like I was listening to a guy on YouTube a few months ago by the name of Ivor Myers,
Yep.
and he made a point about certain topics and certain conversations that people are having that is not related to salvation. And he brought up a quote that I would like to share with you. It's found from Evangelism, page 182, the book of Evangelism. It's not really lengthy, but I'll just go ahead and start. It says, I have been shown that it is the device of the enemy to divert men's minds to some obscure or unimportant point, something that is not fully revealed or is not essential to salvation. This has made the absorbing theme the present truth, when all the investigations and suppositions only serve to make matters more obscure and to confuse the minds of some who ought to be seeking for oneness through sanctification.
Yeah.
Truth.
Amen.
That really woke me up. I'm like, wow, we're talking about other topics that are maybe not even related to salvation, and we're putting our whole mind and effort and time into it. But yet, at the end, we're not really pointing ourselves, or we're not really helping others towards God. You know?
Right.
And I was just like, wow, that was an amazing quote that he shared in that sermon.
Absolutely, and that's really important. Conversations these days can take so many different directions, and you could intend to take a conversation one way, and someone else takes it another direction. And I think we need a lot of wisdom and discernment when it comes to how we engage people. And if it's in our heart to reach them, if it's in our heart to share with them, a godly encouragement or a godly message, then that should be where we want to take the conversation ultimately. Right. And if we feel the conversation is headed in a direction that might be unproductive, or there's no dialogue or chance for dialogue there, it may be in our best interest sometimes to just back off, to just say, maybe this is not a time or a place to have a dialogue or conversation, maybe find some other opportunity. But we have to be careful not to be reactive, because everyone right now is just reactive. Well, you said something, I'm going to just react, and we should not be reactive. We need to be more discerning, patient, and just have it in our hearts to have good conversations with people. And if it's not the time and place, well, it's not the time and place. You just gather yourself up, and maybe another opportunity will come up somewhere along the line. But I think that's our approach, and that's how we maintain a Christ-like attitude and spirit and conduct. Otherwise, we might lose people.
Yeah, and even now more so in these current times where there's just so much division. If you start leaning towards one side or the other, you could lose access to people on this side, or vice versa. If you're on this side, you could lose access to having good dialogue, good conversations with people about God, So, because immediately if you're on one side, the other side will categorize you. They'll put you in that box and say, "Oh, you're one of them," and we don't care about anything you say.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So we have to.
And sometimes there's just no way around it. People will just do that to you, and you're just like, "Well, okay."
And that happened when Jesus was here on earth, right?
It did.
And we get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everywhere he moved. How do I say it? He did it with wisdom.
Wisdom. That's a good one. Yeah. Brian, the most important question for you of this whole podcast is, when are you moving to Texas?
When are you coming back to the mother state?
Everyone seems to be leaving California, and they're all moving down here to Texas. So what's in the future for you?
Well, like I said, I'm still in the medical coding program.
Yeah.
God willing, I'll be done by April or May. But if you were to ask me honestly, I would like to move back there someday. Hopefully, maybe build some equity up in the house, and then, if possible, someday, definitely.
Come on, man.
Yeah, well, maybe sometime soon, man. We will, we'll have you visit Texas, and maybe visit us.
Yeah. join us for some haystacks.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And
I would like to try your guys' version of Haystack.
Look what I have here. You know what this is?
Chicharron?
Jackfruit.
Oh, wow.
Maybe
All
we
right,
can
why
put
did I
this
say
on it.
chicharron?
So I brought some for the Haystack Nation host here as a gift.
Well, because he knows I love jackfruit.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Yeah.
this is have we talked about putting jackfruit on your haystack?
I don't know, but
This might
you know,
be a good
you,
topping.
You know, you can take jackfruit and season it, make it like
Yeah, you said
it's like a brisket texture.
Yeah. Now I'm hungry. Yeah, thanks for the jackfruit.
Yeah. Sorry, you don't get any, Brian. It's really good.
You can just
actually,
look at it, Brian. You know, you can imagine what it tastes like.
It's taking him back to
I could
his
just go to the
Filipino
local Asian
days.
store here down the road and get some myself.
That's true.
But
The Asian market right down the road.
see,
yeah.
he's now he's thinking about it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for joining us, man. Thank you. I appreciate you reaching out to us. I know you have so many other stories that you can share with us, and we'd love to have you back on sometime if you're if it wasn't too bad this time, if this experience wasn't too awful for you.
Yeah. And a big thanks too, because we know it's not easy to share circumstances when you don't make it through something, right? But to show how you're allowing God to bring you through that, and to see that, you know, He's going to guide you in the path that you need to go, that is where the blessing is at.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
this story.
That's a good point.
So,
wow, Dwayne, you really were listening.
oh well, yeah. It's, I mean, it's not easy. Like, how many people come out and say,
I know.
I didn't make it through here, but
Yeah, you're right. That's a great
this
point.
is encouragement. This is what we're trying to spread.
Yeah.
You know, with this ministry,
Yeah.
we want people to be encouraged and know that God has our backs.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Brian. We're going to share your story with as many people as possible, and I hope that people will get a lot of encouragement from you.
Yeah. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and share.
Definitely.
Yes.
Will.
All right, bye. Your little girl's right there next to you. Bye. All right, Brian. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, bro.